please do so. We're about to kick off the live webinar, and we have some people that'll be participating here, but we'll give them the replay if they miss it. So I'm ready to go, Joe.
Okay.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is special time. I'm going to share the wisdom of Dr. Joe White. He and I have been friends for a while. We've worked on several things together, and Joe's been doing this real estate thing, and I've just joined this program he's got, which is really good. And I'm just starting, so I can't give you a testimony, Joe, but I know this man is, I've talked to people who've been his students, and he's brilliant at this. And it's a good way for anybody, no matter what you're doing, anybody to develop another track of passive income, regardless of how busy you are and how many things you got going on. So, Joe White, you're a consummate professional. Give us a little background of, and you're going to do this on the slides, so I'm just going to turn it over to you. He's got some really intriguing slides he's going to walk through, and he's going to give you an offer at the end that's a very special offer. It's insanely low, so pay attention and stay to the end. You'll be glad that you did. So Dr. Joe White, take it over, would you please?
All right, I'd be happy to. You. I'm excited to actually be here. I love sharing information and content. You know, I thank you for actually allowing me to talk to your friends and family, the people that you work with on a regular basis. But one of the questions, Hugh, that I've been getting a lot lately is, you know, how do I get started in real estate investing? You know, pretty much it seems like every time you turn on the TV, there's a new TV show about how to flip a house. Every time that, you know, you listen to the radio, there's, you know, they're talking about some real estate guru coming to the local area that's teaching real estate investing. And what those are all to me is the signs that the real estate market right now is hot. You know, that there's a lot of money to be made in real estate investing, and that, you know, they want to kind of, you know, take advantage of that marketplace. So, you know, you're seeing a lot of commercials, more than I've ever seen actually before in the past, more infomercials, more seminars, more, you know, everything that I've ever seen before. So I get a lot of people who kind of ask me that question a lot. And my superpower and kind of my sweet spot has always been with working with real estate and people who want to get started in real estate investing, or people who may have tried before and failed. And the reason why a lot of times they fail is because they get a course that is too complicated. So, you know, one of my superpowers is trying to break things down and make it simple to where a 5-year-old could actually understand it. So just to give you, we talk about that background. I'm a master real estate investing coach. You say, you know, Joe, why you say that? Well, I've been in real estate investing for over 18 years. I started I saw one of the infomercials on TV. It was Carlton Sheets. I ordered the course. I took the course. I ended up doing I bought it and sold, made well over $1 million worth of properties. I was a landlord for years. And I've tried different areas in real estate, and kind of this flipping wholesaling has kind of been my sweet spot. I kind of enjoy it more than I do anything else. And I've been teaching for well over a decade. For about 14 years, I've been teaching real estate students, you know, from everywhere and around the country, the United States and Canada, you can actually think of. I've written books. I've written courses on the subject. I've written articles on the subject. A lot of articles I've written that you can find on the internet still to this day. And I've come up with a lot of the strategies that people use nationwide that you see on TV and other places. My why though for starting in real estate investing was my 4 kids. You know, I went to high school, and after I graduated high school, I didn't go to college. Everyone else in my immediate family went to college, and they would always tell me, hey, you know, you need to go to college, you're going to get a good job. But I just didn't see a good job as an option for me. I didn't see it as security. And I also had to think about, you know, how do I, you know, spend time with my kids and not work myself to death, you know, like everybody else who's working 1 or 2 jobs to, you know, provide a good life, have a nice house, a nice car, and all of those things. So when I started learning about real estate investing, I said, wow, you know, this is a way that I can make money. I can work from home because, you know, most of the time, unless I've built other businesses, and I did later on, I've been able to just work from home. You know, I can work in jeans and a t-shirt, and I can be here for my kids, and I could pick them up from school. But, you know, they were my why, you know, and I enjoyed taking them on vacations. We would go, you know, spend a week, 2 weeks at Disney World. It just gave me that time, that quality time with my kids. And they were kind of my reason why. But I mean, it just kind of started growing. You know, the early 2000s, I released my first course. It did very well. It allowed me to travel and speak on stages all across the country and to large audiences in the United States and Canada. And I still teach and keep in touch with a lot of my students to this day. And I have famous students, basketball players, R&B artists, different people like that I've taught real estate throughout the years. And then I've also coached a lot of people. I've coached all over, the United States and Canada. So this is kind of what I've done forever. I've built other businesses and I've worked in other sectors in business, but pretty much every major business I built was funded by my real estate. I built a multi-million-dollar business in the mental health field, but that started because of real estate. So real estate is something I've always seemed to come back to because it always seems to make me money. It always seems, it weathers the test of time. So anyway, some of the three other top questions I get on a regular basis, Hugh, are, do I need credit? Do I need to get a line of credit in order to buy houses? Do I need to get an equity line? Do I need to apply for loans in order to start getting in the real estate game? The second question, the top question I get is, do I need cash? Do I need to get money out of my 401k? Do I need to set aside $5,000, $10,000 for deposits or to buy the houses? And then the last question I get on a regular basis is, do I need a real estate a real estate license? Do I need to become a broker? Because I have a friend that's a broker and she told me I need a license in order to invest in real estate. So the answer to all three of those questions are the exact same thing, Hugh. And the answer is no. You don't need cash. You don't need credit.
No.
License.
No, you don't need cash. You don't need credit.
None of those things.
Oh my.
There's a little known strategy. And I always ask people this question when they ask me about why don't you need a cash or a license. So if you were going to sell your car, you wouldn't need to be a dealer because you have an ownership interest in the car. If you were going to sell your personal house, you wouldn't need a license because you have ownership interest in the house. So what happens is the moment you put a property under contract, that gives you ownership interest and that allows you to sell that house. So we do, in real estate, we do one or two things when we're flipping or wholesaling a house. Either we're going to assign our contract to someone who wants to buy it at a higher price, or we're going to take that contract and we're going to flip it, meaning we're going to buy the house and we're going to sell it at the same time using the actual buyer's money. And this strategy has been used in all kinds of businesses for years. And it's a strategy called arbitrage. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But it's basically what arbitrage means. It's basically you finding something that you control and you're going to buy it low and then you're going to sell it high. And the cool thing, if you're selling a small widget that costs $10, then normally your profit is going to be around $3. If you're selling something like furniture and you're selling it for $1,000, then your profit may be $200. The great thing about real estate, because it's such a big ticket item, just getting the crumbs off a real estate deal is $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. The more, Ron Rand used to say, the more money you water in, the more it sticks to you. So that's why I love real estate, because if I can even do a small deal, it's a lot of money. So the four things that I teach, I tell people in what is business, what is real estate, four major things you need to understand when you're building a business. And, this can either be a hobby or it can be a business. You can do it part-time, you can do it full-time, but these same strategies apply, or these same things apply. And number one is, you have to understand your strategy. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that in just a second. The second thing is you have to understand what tactics are. Then you have to understand what are your tools, and you're going to have to understand how to build and grow and set up systems. So I'm going to kind of break each of those down, and I'm going to also break down the 12 steps in order to do that. So when the strategy pretty much that I put together in real estate, I have like 12 steps. And a strategy to me is what, when, and why. So if I gave you the combination to my safe and I said, go in there and get $1,000 out of it, and I gave you the combination and then you put in the combination, but you put it in the wrong order, it's not going to open. So strategy is just as much about, not about what to do, but the sequence in which you're doing it. So there's a lot of people who start in real estate and they take courses, but sometimes you do things out of sequence. And when you do it out of sequence, you don't get the result you're looking for. So there's a sequence to this. So the sequence that I've come up with over the last 18 years, I just keep repeating that. And I teach my students these steps. I'll give them the steps, and then we go into a deep dive in each, and we show them how to set up and do it on a constant basis. So these 12 steps are things like locating the properties, locating the owner, qualifying the owner. And I'm gonna go in depth in all of these and give some great information in just a second. Finding the value of the property, estimating the repairs, constructing the offer, negotiation, filling out the paperwork, marketing for buyers, finding the right attorney to work with, and then what everybody likes at the end is collecting a check. So all of those in the right order is the strategy. Now you say, well, again, why is sequence important and why is the why important? If I gave you the blueprint to build a house and then you say, well, why do I need a blueprint? I can just go put the house up. Well, I say, well, you have to do the foundation first. And you say, well, why do I have to do the foundation? Well, if you don't do the foundation, you'll build the house and it'll fall in eventually. The sequence makes a difference. The foundation first, then the frame, then, everything else from there. So that's what our strategy pretty much is. And then our tactics. Here I kind of want to go a little bit in depth of those 12 steps and kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive. The tactics to me are the execution. Everybody, I run into a lot of people who have great ideas, but it's not the idea that's important, it's the execution. And then what they'll say is, because maybe they're looking for some type of help from me, they'll say, well, I need you to sign a non-disclosure and I need to protect my idea. And they like the idea is so important. Our idea means nothing if you can't execute. So the tactics, the way you execute is going to be important. The strategy is the first piece, but here, that's really where you get things done. It's the action. So when we talked about locating the owner, every Saturday on the weekends, and I've done this since my kids have been small, and I used to pay them to help me. I'll drive around, key neighborhoods that I found that were, that have great potential properties, and I'll ride around those neighborhoods and I'll look for vacant houses. And I always, recommend, people start this way. I call it driving for dollars. You're gonna ride around, you're gonna look for those houses that maybe are boarded up, the grass is high, just the extra papers in the yard, and you're gonna take a picture of those houses, and you're gonna have to locate the owner. So, one good thing that Uncle Sam has done is in every single county in the United States, you can go to the local county tax website where people pay their taxes to, and you can look up just by putting that address who the owner is and what their address is. So that's one way of locating the owner. Well, the first piece of it. The second piece is too, it used to be a time where everybody was in the phone book, but now we've kind of moved to where everybody has cell phones and you can't really find people's phone numbers in the same way. So, we have to do other ways of actually locating the owner, like sending them letters, or we have to, maybe we look them up on Facebook or social media, or skip trace or something like that. But we want to locate that owner because a lot of times when you have a house that doesn't have a for sale sign in front of it, those are the best deals because that means that owner is actively marketing the house. So locating that owner is pretty much, in cases like that, 60% of the battle. When I've seen a house that's been vacant and abandoned for a long time, every time I contact that owner, it's an incredible deal. It's always a sweet deal. Qualifying the owner. Once you kind of find the owner, does he have the right to sell? Does he have a wife? And, they share the property. Was it an estate house where maybe the mom, dad, and then there's other brothers and sisters that need to be able to actually sell the house? And then sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes a person is motivated, but they're not so motivated that they want to sell it cheap enough where we can get it and make money off of it. Because it's not it's not a big burden yet. But what happens, I always say time and circumstances change everything. So over time, a lot of times when those type of houses, and we'll talk later on about different types of houses and where you can get them from, but they can't do the repairs. The city is sending them letters that this property is a nuisance. The neighbors are complaining. And once it gets to the boiling point where they say, I can't fix this house. I've had enough. I'm paying taxes on it. That owner is now ready to go. And your first phone call, you have to qualify if that owner's at the right point where they want to sell. And then, we'll talk later on about following up later because they may not want to sell today, but that could totally change 30, 60 days from now. Finding out the value of the property. How do you sell something that you don't know the value? How do you know what you should be selling for? How do you know if you're getting it cheap enough to even resell it? So another key tactic is you have to understand how to find out the value of the house. There's free websites that do it. There's paid websites. You can go to Zillow and get the information for free. But Zillow is not really accurate. It kind of gives you a ballpark. You know, the way a house value is determined, or how you know what house value is, you compare it to other houses that are similar that's sold in, close by that house. And you have to understand what the market is doing to understand the value. So you can't go off the tax value, because the tax value is pretty much what the city thinks that that neighborhood is worth per square feet. So, it's not accurate either. So finding out that value is going to help you on tremendously on the next, couple of steps that we're doing now. Estimating the repairs. If I told you, there's a house that's worth $60,000 and I can buy it for 40, you may say that's a great deal. But what if I told you it needed $20,000 in repairs? That changes the deals, because now I'm buying it for the retail price. I'm buying it for $60,000 because I have to do those repairs to it. So estimating repairs is important, because also too, I sell my houses normally to a lot of people who are landlords, or people who want to renovate them and live in them, or people who may want to renovate them and put tenants in them, or every once in a while people who want to renovate them and resell them. But if the repairs is too many repairs that need to be done, then they don't want them. So understanding how to estimate those repairs is super important to constructing our offer. And our offer, in the real estate business, it's pretty much like any business. If you're wholesaling, you have, the reason why we call it wholesaling, you have your wholesale price, which is, the below market. And of course, you have your retail prices when you're selling to the end result customer. But the formula has pretty much been the same in real estate and wholesaling, flipping forever, which is, you take 100% of whatever the price is times 70%. So 65% of the after repair value, or the value what the house will be worth once it's repaired, and you're going to minus repair. So let me give you those numbers where maybe you can understand them a little bit better. If I got a $100,000 house, I would take 65% of that, which would be $65,000. If it needed $20,000 in repairs, I would minus that from the $65,000. I would offer the owner $45,000. But you can't do that unless you understand what the value is and you understand how to estimate repairs, and then you construct the offer. So although you need to know what to offer, because if you offer too much, then what happens is you can't sell the house, you don't make any money, or you make a little bit of money. You offer too little, and then sometimes you're going to insult the owner, and that comes to, one of our next pieces, which is negotiation. I had one of the last houses I bought about within the last 30 days. Someone bought it to me, another investor, and when they negotiated, the house was worth 60. They ended up getting the owner to say, hey, okay, well, I'll take 30,000. I negotiated, the owner took 6,500.
Whoa.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the difference is certain key phrases, certain things you need to say, how you say them, when you say them, not seeming desperate, certain key phrases that, that kind of push the buttons. Because here's why you say, why would someone sell a house for 6,500 that's worth 60,000? And I'm going to explain to you why, so it makes it kind of clear for people who may doubt why that's the case. Most people would rather take 6,500 guaranteed, knowing when they're going to get it, versus trying to wait till they don't know when to get 30,000, especially when the house is a headache. So this house had been condemned by the city. The city was sending them letters. The city was about to start charging per day a nuisance fee because the house was, being condemned. But the house didn't need that much work. And the crazy thing, Hugh, that I've seen houses condemned for the silliest thing. I mean, having carpet on the bathroom floor. Anything that doesn't meet the city code, they normally condemn it. If you don't fix it within a certain time, they normally give you 30, 60, 90 days. If you don't fix it, they condemn it. And that can be something super small. So this house didn't even need that much work. It's just that, I think it was some rot on the windows, something like that. But it was really simple. But I was able to negotiate and get it down to a much, much cheaper price. And then we sold that house. And I'm going to show you that house in just a little bit. Filling out the paperwork. Again, if what makes what we do legal and allows us to make money is the fact that we have an offer and purchase contract on the real estate, which gives us an ownership interest. We assign the right to use that contract to an end result buyer who buys from us, or we may flip the contract over where we buy the house and sell it at the exact same time. It's called a simultaneous close.
And you make money on that?
You do. You make difference between what you buy it for and what you sell it for. We call it the spread.
That's a fear factor. April has her hand raised. April, can you type a question into the box? April Johnson's on there and has a question. If you type on click on the chat at the bottom and type your question in. Otherwise, we will see. She's got her hand raised. Is the city's demo list a good place to look for properties?
Oh yeah, it is. I always tell my students to get the condemned list. Great places for getting properties. Condemned lists are great. Probate is really good. When someone dies and they leave a house, a lot of times the kids are living in another state, another city. They already have their own house. They can't afford to keep up two houses. And then a lot of people don't want to be landlords. A lot of people will see the real estate TV shows and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be a landlord. I'm going to get rich. But dealing with tenants is hard, you know, because you're now dealing with somebody who may or may not pay on time and you have a mortgage, or you're dealing with somebody who may be destroying your property. And so I get a lot of my properties also from burned out landlords, people who just say, you know, this isn't for me. And a lot of the houses that are on the condemned list may be those particular people, but there's so many, you know, different ways. There's tax liens, there's, you know, the probate, there's foreclosures, there's a lot of ways. Kind of seeing the sweet spot to me is normally the two sweet spots are the vacant houses and the estate properties are kind of the best for me.
The estate properties?
Mm-hmm, yeah. When someone's died and left the house to the kids or the family.
And they don't know what to do with it.
They don't know what to do with it. A lot of times they don't want it. Also, too, a lot of times you got, like, you know, you got three brothers and sisters. They all want something different. But the one thing they all want is to get paid and get paid quickly.
So you come along and help them do that. Now, you know, as you're talking through this, when you first started talking to me about doing this, I think, oh, there's a fear factor and it seems really hard. But when you're explaining it, you have a very comforting voice, for one, but you've worked out the details. So I'm feeling good about this, and I haven't started the program yet, but I'm rolling up my sleeves, ready to go. So let me stop interrupting you now.
Oh, no problem. Anytime you got a question, feel free to chime in.
And people watching, if you have a question, raise your hand on the little button or type into the chat screen, and I'll pay attention.
So once you have a house under contract, you then have to find somebody that's going to buy it from you at a higher price. And, you know, the great thing, another reason why I really have started like pushing the course, because I would only offer certain courses to you by referral. But what's happening is I get a house now, it's going in 10 days. I've got a waiting list of 30 people who are looking to buy houses. So you can get a house, you can advertise it online, and everybody who calls about that house, even if they buy or not, are potential buyers. And so what happens is, if they don't buy that house from you, the next time you get a house, you just call them. You don't have to advertise a second time. You've got people waiting for houses. And I'm getting calls from people from New York and California and other places across the country. You know, a lot of times I get a lot of people that are in California. A house that's in North Carolina that may cost $80 may cost $1 million in California. So in their mind, they're like, hey, I can buy 10 houses. So, I mean, I have a lot of clients that are out of state that buy houses all the time. But it's just a red hot market right now. I'm not able to keep a house. I can't get enough houses. And they're going as quick as I get them. Plus, I get a lot of people who don't mind doing the fix up and then actually living in the house themselves. The next key piece we talked about before.
Before you go there, you said something about advertising that I missed, but Ebony is on the call, and she says for her, estates and vacancies are really the properties she targets because they're the easiest. So she's validating what you say. But you mentioned about advertising. I missed that part when you were talking about that. I wasn't paying attention.
We'll go back. And you know what? And Ebony, if it's the Ebony I'm thinking of, Ebony just taking this course, and Ebony made $10,000 in 90 days. So I think probably the same Ebony. So.
Yes, it is. It's Ebony. Yeah.
So let's talk about marketing to buyers. So pretty much the normal place that I go to is Craigslist. Craigslist, you can post houses on there for sale, and normally you'll get a lot of buyer responses. And what you're going to do is you're going to collect those names either for them to buy that property now or buy a property in the future. The key, what really gets people to motivated is having a great ad. Like I'll give you one of my favorite ads here that gets like, normally if I post this ad, I probably get like maybe 100 responses. great house, but I'll burn it down before I let her have it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You get a lot of responses. Oh, wow.
Or free house with the purchase of the lawn.
Oh.
Things like that.
Wow, that's clever. Did you make those up?
Some of them. Some of them, you always take the best practices from people you see, see what's working. So I have a swipe file, but the first one I made up, the second one I did.
Free house with the purchase of a lawn. I love it. But you really get people's attention. That's great.
And things like that, headlines, if you know anything about marketing, headlines kind of set the tone and make people stop and look. When you walk by the newsstand, we don't know what's inside of the magazine or the Inquirer. We just know that Drew Barrymore is dating an alien. And we stop because we see that headline, and then that's what makes us pick up the Inquirer and start reading. So, I've come up with a lot of good headlines that I've kind of tucked away, and I use different ones at different times. And then the other thing is too, if I'm marketing a property, I may be marketing it a couple times during the week, and you don't want to use the same ad. So that's why, I have a lot of different headlines that I use. Going to your attorney, if an attorney is important, because not every attorney understands everything. Most attorneys only understand the type of law that they practice. So it's just like, let me give you an example. If I needed a tooth pulled, I wouldn't go to a heart surgeon. If I needed a heart surgery, I wouldn't go to a dentist. And so you have to make sure that the attorney you use properly understands real estate and real estate investing. So, I've always talked to my students about different questions to ask attorneys, but also getting referrals. If you belong to a local real estate investing club, going there, asking who other people are using, what's their experience with that person. But a good attorney sometimes can make or break your deal. They're the back end to your customer service. And that's one of the last step before you actually get a check. So picking the right attorney is super important. Qualifying the buyers. Even though you're getting 100 calls, out of those 100 calls, 20 are going to actually really have the money to buy. A lot of the calls that I will get is people who have taken another real estate course who are asking me questions who really don't have any money. Or maybe I'm getting somebody who, doesn't have a line of credit or doesn't have cash or can't qualify for a loan. And what you don't want to do is tie up your time with somebody who can't buy at the end. So qualifying those buyers are important. The other reason why you want to qualify those buyers, two other reasons. One is you want to build a relationship. When you build a relationship with a person, normally they will turn you on to other deals. They buy quicker. And then you can ask questions. You can find out, how quick can you close? What are you looking for? What areas are you looking to buy in? I've got buyers who want to buy in Burlington and Charlotte and other places across North Carolina. But I spent the time to qualify them and understand what it is they're looking for. So when I'm out getting houses or I find a particular type of house in a certain area, I automatically know, hey, you know what? This house is perfect for Bill. Let me call Bill. Let me send Bill an email with the pictures of this house and the details. And normally Bill said, let's close. I have buyers. When you got a great buyers list, I've got buyers that close in 48 hours. From the time they see a house, within 48 hours, they've got a check waiting in my attorney's office.
Wow. So you've built a reputation over time with those people.
I built not just a reputation, but a relationship.
Relationship. That's what I meant. Thank you.
Well, you're a perfect example of that. You're great at building relationships. And then, if something I can do, if I meet a buyer and they have great contractors who are doing repair work, and I know those contractors do good work, and then I'll turn those contractors sometimes on to other people who work in the industry. So, I'm always also looking how I can add value to my buyers so that I can make them successful, because if they're successful, they're going to buy more houses from me.
Now, I'm remembering going through the course here and program that you're going to help me with the first couple of deals, right?
I am. I have two different ways that I'm doing it now. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to offer them, they can contact me through, or people now contact me through the Contents app on there. And I'm going to cover that in just a second. Great. With a couple of other good goodies and bonuses too.
Sweet.
So if you're going to build a house, we know we got to have a blueprint. We know we got to, actually get to work. We got to execute. We got to start building, but we got to have tools. Have you ever been to go to a mechanic and say, can you fix a transmission? He says, I don't have the tools for that.
Yep.
If you don't have the right tools, you can't do the job. And we're kind of now in an era of a time in history where pretty much everything is run off the web. There's websites. So, if I want to find, who owns the house again, I go to the tax website. If I want to find out potential value, I may go to Zillow. If I want to find out that owner's phone number, I may go to 411.com. I mean, there's tons of websites and different tools that you actually need to kind of speed up this business. One of the things that I'm working on now that I've done for myself that I'm going to be adding to my easy real estate investing course is how to set up your browser so that you can be more productive. So that's one of the videos I'm actually going to be putting out later on this week. I set up my browser in such a way where all these websites for finding information on real estate are right on my browser bar, so I can get to them a lot quicker and more efficiently. But websites are a tool. Another tool is your services. You have different websites and services that you may spend money on monthly and get subscriptions. I have a skip trace service that I use because some of the free websites don't go deep enough. I've had situations where if the person died, maybe their name is still on the property. I need to know who the relatives are. I need to know who the kids are. And the skip trace service that I use has all of that information in there. It'll tell me who the relatives are and their possible addresses of that particular person. So there's a lot of services I use. List services. There's a list service that can give you a list of every vacant house in any zip code in the United States. There's other services where I can find out who's bought houses cash within a certain, within any zip code within the United States. So the benefit to that is if I know who's buying houses for cash or who's investors based on the city records, then I can just target those people if I need to sell houses to them. So, I mean, there's a lot of services we use as another tool, and marketing pieces. There's no money made unless there's marketing and sales. I always ask people, or here's an example I use. I say, if I ask you, what's the number one washing detergent in the world? You may tell me Tide, or you may tell me Gain, but we don't know that. We know that they're the best marketed. And so people don't know you have a solution for a problem because there's a lot of people that are looking for a solution. They're looking for people to buy the house, take it off their hands. They're looking for people to relieve them of that burden. But if they don't know you exist, if they don't know how to reach you, and they don't know what you're offering, then you're never going to get them to actually, buy into what you're doing. You're never going to find them. They're never going to find you. So, having marketing pieces, I use door hangers, and my door hangers right here. Business cards, postcards, yellow letters. Those marketing pieces are my tools to get leads in so that I can, kind of go through those leads and find good deals. Scripts. When you first start in real estate, one of the things too is you want to know, what to say to the people. A lot of times you're scared to talk to people because you don't know what to say. And so a script, just like in a movie, the actors just don't go on stage, go on the set and wing it. They have a script, what they go by, and they know what they're going to say when they're going to say it. So having a good script so that when you talk to a seller or a buyer, you know what questions to ask, you know what to say, you use the right wording, you say it at the right time so you get the right response. So that's another important too. Your contracts, again, we keep talking about what makes what we do legal is the fact that you have an ownership interest in the property, and that's secured by a contract. Now, here's another really cool thing, Hugh, that makes real estate investing so amazing. There's no other business that I can think of where I can leverage something that's worth $60, $70, $80, $100,000, and I put on a contract for $1 to $10. There's very seldom, if I close 10 deals, maybe 1 out of 10, I put $100 down. On average, most of the time, I put $10 down, and that's all the money I have invested to make $5, $10, $15,000 on a deal. I mean, where else can you do that in business, invest $10 and get a return like that?
No, that's incredible.
And the reason why is there's 3 elements to every contract. There's offer, consideration. There's offer, agreement, and consideration. The consideration is the money you put down to hold the deal in place. Mm-hmm. And that can be $1. It doesn't have to be a certain amount. So if I'm dealing with an owner, then pretty much what I just do is I say, hey, listen, let's go ahead and do the paperwork. Let's get the contract done. By law, I have to give you something down. Here's $10. You get the rest of your money within 30 days. I never get a problem. Nobody says, hey, I need $500. It's one of the reasons why I don't start my students or people I work with dealing with real estate agents, because every time you deal with a real estate agent, they're going to want 500 to 1,000 down, because that's the normal policy and procedure that they work within that realm. But if you're dealing with a person who owns the house, who's just tired and just wants to get rid of it, who doesn't want to pay the taxes, who doesn't want to deal with the prayers, tired of the city calling them, the neighbors, the kids are breaking the windows. I mean, I know in most cities they make you put the boards on the window because kids will break the windows. They break into the house. I mean, I've been in vacant houses where you had drug fiends living in the house. And so most of them don't care about the deposit. So I'm not spending a lot of money when I'm doing these deals. And then there's other forms of documents you may need. Like, I have a document that I use for estimating repairs. I have, other documents I use as far as tracking my weekly progress and how many houses I looked at and things like that. So your forms of documents, these are all tools that we use as real estate investors in order to build our business. And the last major piece, Hugh, is our systems. Now, what I always tell people is there is a difference between a hustle and a business. A hustle is, to me, where you sell something, but you're not consistent, so you don't have consistent results. A business is where you take those tactics and you put them into a routine that you repeat over and over and over again, and that's your system. And you don't have to be even responsible for all of those tactics. You may outsource those to a virtual assistant. I do my leads, and I love driving on the weekends, so I still do that myself. But then I upload them to my system, and my virtual assistant does all the research. She finds the owners. She does, the qualifying. She answers calls. She returns calls. So pretty much what I do is the important, the pieces of just making the offer, the negotiation. But that's the difference between a hustle and a business. And so a system allows you to do that. And I'll tell you who's really good at that. I don't know if anybody has seen the movie The Founder about Ray Kroc and how he formed McDonald's. And before, in the beginning of the movie, they would go to the drive-up diners. Maybe you remember those views. That's before my time. But they would go to the drive-in diners, and it would take them 30 to 45 minutes to get their food. And when Ray Kroc went to McDonald's, he went to see this business because they had ordered like 3 milkshake machines. He went to see the business, and he got his food in less than 1 minute.
Ooh.
It's amazing. They said, do you want to come inside and see how we do it? So they had a guy, different people at different stations doing different things. They had a guy who would put the pickles on, and it was 2 pickles on every hamburger. And they would have, somebody else putting ketchup on it. And they would have the little squirt gun to put the ketchup on it. And they would have the buns, and they would rotate the tray. And they did everything in a routine. They took all of those tactics, they did it in a routine, and they repeated it over and over again to get the same result. So when you go to any McDonald's in the United States, I'm not going to say anything about outside the United States, because in different countries they use different meat. But in the United States, a Big Mac tastes the same at every McDonald's that I go to. And that's because they have a system, something that allows them to have predictable, repeatable results. And so one of the key pieces to a system is a CRM system. And CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. In business, and every business, I'm always talking to people about having a CRM, because that's kind of like your hub where all the information goes. I mean, if you're looking at 25 to 50 houses every single week, how do you start to track that? You can't track that with paper. If you're talking to multiple sellers, how do you know when you're supposed to call that person back? Because a lot of times I call people and they're not ready to sell a house the first time I call them, but 90 days later they are. But how do you remember that you're supposed to follow up with them? Or how do you remember, all the details of what you talked about when you talked to them? Maybe they were waiting to go through the estate process before they could sell a house. Maybe she was waiting for the brother to come back from out the country. But if you don't have a central location for all that information, you wouldn't know these things. So your CRM is kind of the hub, like in the middle, like you see in the picture, of everything that's going on. Contacts management, keeping people's phone numbers, their emails. How about, you want to have all your investors and know what exactly they want to buy. So you have some type of electronic system. So when you find a 2-bedroom house, who wants to buy 2-bedroom houses, so all of those things and what, they're looking for. Or, an investor who may take residential, but he's also inquiring about commercial property. And here's another sweet thing too. I'll save that one for just a second, because, I was just going to give you guys some other great information, but I'm going to give it to you just a second. So, but it just reminds you of also when to follow up.
Mm-hmm.
way I kind of work my system here is I know on the weekends I'm going to drive for dollars. On Monday I'm going to process. I'm going to resource leads. On Tuesday, Wednesday I may my secretary or my virtual assistant will process the leads. On Friday I may be filling out mail pieces. So just kind of it's just the same thing. And then a lot of times on Friday I'm doing a lot of my follow-up calls. In marketing, again, if people don't know you exist, if people don't know you have a solution. A wise man once told me money is a reward for solving a problem. And everything that's ever been invented by man is because there's a problem. And so marketing is something that has to be repeated every single month. One of the things I've always taught my students, or I teach my students, is, a certain percentage off of every deal you make has to go back into marketing. I am, this every month I'm doing bandit signs, I'm sending letters, I'm doing postcards, I've given out business cards. My business cards, offer people like $500 if they refer deals. And so you got people who, work regular jobs and they say, you know what, hey, I see this house, or I know a family member's got a house. Joe said he would give me $500 if I referred him a deal, but I'm always marketing. And I'm because I do that, Hugh, when I expected deals are popping out. And so most of the time, because I have a good system, every single month I'm doing 1 to 2 deals, and I'm not even working hard. I'm working at home in t-shirt or a polo shirt and jeans in my house. So what I did, Hugh, is I created an online course. And like I said, originally I had a course in the early 2000s that tons of people taken, but I kind of updated it. And what I did is I created the Easy Real Estate Investing Academy. And what it basically does is takes all of these things that we've talked about and goes even deeper into them. It talks about, how do I pick the right neighborhood? So there's ways to pick the right neighborhood so you're not in the hood or the war zone, but you're in the right sweet spot where landlords want to be. Or, how do I, choose, how many neighborhoods do I choose? And, how do I, other ways of setting everything up. So it kind of takes you from soup to nuts to actually everything there is to do. And I'm sorry, Hugh, I'm going to have to grab my plug right quick.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if anybody has a question while I'm doing that.
You're giving me lots of comfort as you're walking through this, because it's a well thought out and documented system. And you've done this so many times, you know where to guide people on the next step.
Very, very, very true. But I mean, I go through everything soup to nuts. And what I did in the course, I put 5 modules in where I go through all 12 steps. There's a daily meditation because, in business, I think, nothing works if your mind isn't right.
Yep.
If you can't believe that this is possible, if you can't overcome the fear, you never do a deal. So we do there's a daily meditation in there. There's an overview of real estate as a whole, understanding, how, not just wholesaling or flipping, but also rehabbing a house, being a landlord, lease options, because there's a lot of different techniques. Although my specialty is wholesaling, the system or the engine for wholesaling is the engine that can work any part of the real estate business, because really what I'm teaching is how to market, find, and acquire the properties, and what you decide to do with them at the end, whether flip them or fix them up is up to you. My main thing of teaching, what I really try to teach is how do we flip them over for quick cash, but you may decide at some point, I want to keep this house, or this is a really nice house, I want to live in this house. So there's, pretty much we go through everything in this particular course. But, let me show you I'll show you a couple of deals and tell you how I found them. And this is a kind of a typical month for me.
Well, you could keep these, if you bought them right, you could keep them for income property. You could rent them out, couldn't you?
You definitely could.
Okay.
You definitely could. And I have a lot of friends and business partners that they do that. I don't like, I don't do single family houses. I like, as far as keeping, I like apartment complexes. Because I don't like to do the tenant management. And I once had a tenant take the water hose and put it inside the house and flood the whole house. And I've had them, just the calls with toilets and the trash and all this stuff at night. I don't like being a landlord. I would probably be a motivated seller if I was a landlord. So,
well, and you mentioned earlier you find some motivated landlords.
A lot of.
It looks like you've made some money on these.
Yeah. So, to give you example number 1 right here on the left-hand side, the white and green house. This particular house, I rode by some drug addicts who lived in the house. no lights. Some of the walls, they had actually ripped out the walls to get the copper out of the walls that hooked up the plugs and sell the copper. There was still like furniture that had been there so long it had been molded. I ended up tracking down the owner. It actually belonged to two guys. They were young guys. They were probably in their early 20s. Their granddad had left them the house. It was free and clear. One of the guys had just gotten out of jail. And I found him actually through his girlfriend. I found him on Facebook. And his girlfriend was pregnant, and they needed money to move into a apartment before the baby got here. And so what ended up happening, I was able to negotiate and get the house for $8,000. The tax value or the after repair value of this house, I think, was like $65,000. So I sold it for $14,000. I sold it in, it took me like 7 days to sell this house. I made $6,000. And I have totally, he invested in this house 6 hours. From beginning to end, from the time I found this house, I negotiated, I signed a contract. I had 6 hours invested and made $6,000.
That's $1,000 an hour you made.
I mean, that's decent money. I don't know a job that can pay me, $1,000 an hour. And can you imagine that if, later on, as you really get good at this and you move to apartment complexes or bigger buildings, so you can multiply that times 10 if it was a $600,000 building. So, there's a lot of money being made in wholesaling, but a lot of people be happy with just making $10,000 a month. If we can start here, then you can always grow from there. But the issue these kids had is, the city was sending them notices. They didn't have the money to fix it up. It would take $10,000, $15,000 to fix it up. But I had a buyer who's willing to do all the repairs, so I don't do any repairs. I don't have to do any work. I paid them $10 down at McDonald's. He took the $10 and bought a Big Mac. And then after that, that was it. We went to the attorney, we closed the deal. This other house is in Burlington, North Carolina, and I just closed this house a few weeks ago, like within the last 3 weeks. This was the one I told you about that, originally the person had negotiated and the owner told them $30,000. And then I negotiated and the owner told me $6,500. And so this particular house, the city had condemned it. And the problem, the piece that made the person so motivated to sell was the next door neighbor kept calling the city and made the city condemn this house because the kids in the neighborhood would go into this house and play and, smoke cigarettes or get high or whatever, and so that also too is a insurance issue, because also insurance on vacant houses are 3 times as high as insurance on houses that are occupied. And you have to have insurance because what if somebody goes in the house, breaks in the house and gets hurt, you're still responsible. So this particular house, I ended up getting them to take $6,500. I sold it for $11,500. And how I sold this particular house, I put the ugliest house ever. What's that? Ugliest house ever. Want to move quickly, something like that I put. But I mean, I'm still getting calls. I probably got 110 calls from people wanting to buy this house. Here, 3 hours invested. From beginning to end. I looked at this house one time, saw the inside, came back out, took the pictures, locked the contract, and put it on Craigslist and sold it in 3-4 days. I had a contract, closed it in a week. So I mean, this is not hard. It's really simple, and there's great money to be made if this is what you do. And you can do this in any area across the country. You can do it from your computer. You can do it in areas you don't live in. I recommend that you start in the area you live in. But you can, pretty much find these houses online, send somebody else by to take the pictures, look at them, and then sell them. And so this is something that anybody can do. So I'm going to prove to you anybody can do it. So you might say, okay, Joe, you've been doing this 18 years, so you pretty much can do this, but what about me? So I'll give you an example of Yolanda Robinson. Yolanda is she's a friend of Ebony's. Matter of fact, Ebony, I think maybe might refer, no, Ebony's friend referred to Yolanda. But, Yolanda Robinson, she's a nurse, full-time nurse. She's a mother with 3 kids and a wife. So you can imagine she doesn't have a lot of time with 3 small kids, young kids. She was able to take the course, take my Easy Real Estate Investing Academy. And within 90 days, Yolanda had got her first check and it was $6,500. I mean, just imagine. And now she's like working deals left and right, to the point where when last I talked to her, she says, I don't even know if I want to go to work. You think if you're getting $6,500 twice a month, it's kind of hard to get up and go to work, or your boss says one wrong thing to you, you might be like, okay, I don't need this job. I can go wholesale some houses. So, but she did it, and it wasn't hard, and she enjoyed it. And it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And once you master it, you got it. Like I say, I've always come back to real estate. If I go to another business, I've always come back to real estate, and I funded most of my businesses from real estate. There's another person, Robert, and Robert lives in New York, and New York isn't kind of my favorite area. But Robert, took the course. He stayed the course. He kept doing his marketing. He did his advertising. He finally got his first deal. I think it took him maybe like 96 days to get his first deal, but his first deal was $10,000. And the other thing about Robert, I'll tell you, that's interesting. His wife actually is the breadwinner. So he stays home. He's actually a house husband. And his wife goes to work every day, and he stays home and he takes care of their small kids. But now Robert's actually making more than the wife and still staying home with the kids. I mean, you talk about a role reversal where, she was probably bossing him around. He may have, got that $10,000 check and been like, hey, you know what? You're cooking tonight. Or, you know what? I'm going out. You watch the kids. So, and he's doing this full time, and he loves it. And he's actually graduated to doing all kinds of other real estate deals, but he's using the same core system. And so the cool thing about this system, Hugh, is it's an online system. And the online system allows you to get instant access. It allows you to, watch it from anywhere on your phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. So you can pretty much watch the course from anywhere, breaks it down into lessons. It gives you the assignments. It gives you all the documents you need, all the contracts you need are included in the system. There's a real estate investor Rolodex that gives you every single website and tool that you need, or access to the tools you need in order to be in the real estate investing business. All the scripts are in here, so you know exactly what to say when you're talking to people. There's the templates for flyers. There's the ads for Craigslist are already there. You just have to copy and paste them into Craigslist. So it's not hard. It's not like you're saying, hey, I got to think of an ad. No, all you got to do is go to Craigslist, copy what I've already created, stick it right in there, and stick the picture. You're done. You know what? The contracts, I show you how to fill them out. The contracts are already there, already looked over by a lawyer. So the valid contracts in all 50 states. You can have them looked at again if you want to. It's already there. And then I take you through every single step so you understand what you're doing, how you're doing it. And one of the things too, Hugh, I started is, we talked about before, there was a time I did coaching, and I would kind of do splits with students. And I don't do that in that same way anymore. And what we would do, we would become partners for a certain amount of time. But what would happen is they would end up having to pay me thousands upon thousands of dollars, and they don't need me that long. They don't need me, to hold their hand in that way, because everything's here and it's simple and it's laid out. So why do you want to continue to pay me thousands of dollars when you can pay me one time and be done? But I do realize that some people have questions, so I added a bonus to this particular course as I redid it, and that bonus is for 12 months they can ask me unlimited questions. So if they say, you know what, I don't understand this, Joe, you know what, you can ask me a question. You put it in the comment section, and I can answer it. Plus the group. There's people who've been in this course for 2 years that are, got great expertise, like Robert, like Yolanda, like Ebony. They can see the comments too. They can help answer it. But, I answer the questions for 12 months. I will answer unlimited amount of questions. If you're working on a house and you say, you know what, I don't know if this offer is all right, Joe, here's some information about it. And then I'll answer and say, you know what, you should offer this. Or why don't you start here and work your way up? Don't start at the highest number, because then you have nowhere to go. You have no negotiation. Negotiation is something where people have to feel like both parties win. And so, you want to start at a little bit lower number so they feel like you can meet in the middle. Or, I may tell you, hey, you know what, let's do multiple offers. Because sometimes when you make 3 offers, people focus on which offer to take opposed to taking none. But, these are all questions that people ask me on a regular. And you can do that, for 12 months, you can ask me any question you have about real estate investing or about the lessons in the course. Another thing that I've added here is a bonus, since I no longer do the partnering, is lifetime access to updates. So like I'm finishing up a video now about how to set up your browser for ultimate to be more productive. Because I am And people who know me, I'm kind of a tech nerd, and I'm always on the web. I'm always finding tools and apps and different stuff like that. A great app I use that I found that I'm telling everybody about is called HomeSnap. HomeSnap is an app you download to your phone, and and when I first started, of course, I didn't know. So now, I'm doing updates on it. You download the app to your phone, and you go to in front of a house. You take a picture. It automatically knows what address you're at, and it gives you the value of the house instantly.
Oh, my word.
So, but I didn't know about this when I first released the course. So now I'm doing updates talking about these. So Ebony, when she took it, we didn't have that. They pretty much wrote everything on paper. So having access to lifetime updates of new information, every month I'm posting new videos. Every year I'm keeping in compliance with the new laws or what's changing in the marketplace, what's changing in the economy. We got a new president. He's changing different laws and things of that nature. I'm pretty much updating constantly. You have lifetime access to that. Plus you have the ability to ask questions for 12 months. But here's the issue, Hugh. It's because I'm answering these questions for 12 months. Once I get to the point where I'm getting so many questions a day, because I'm running 4 or 5 businesses, I'm on a couple of different boards. I have a limited amount of time per day to answer questions. Once it gets to the point where I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I'm getting too many questions a day because there's so many people in the course, I'm going to have to stop actually taking people in the course until some of those people get past that 12-month period. Yep. So what I'm saying is I have limited space. So if the people who are on the webinar tonight are interested in taking the course, I would say move now. And the other thing I'm going to do to kind of motivate you, because I do have limited space, is I've been selling this course for $297 for the last 2 years. That's been pretty much the standard price, and I probably I've charged as much as $497 for this particular course and the information I'm giving. And so I've been doing that, but what I want to do differently now, because I do want to go ahead and fill this up, and I realize I want people to act now, because I think the next 2 years are going to be some of the best years in real estate we've had. And so I really want people to, if you're going to get in now, because it takes about 90 days to get your first deal done. It takes that long to master it. When I'm looking to master a skill, I give myself 90 days, and I always tell my students to do the same. So what I'm going to do is right now, until the course is full, or two, I got, enough people in where, I can't take any more questions. I'm going to actually be selling this course for $197.
Oh my goodness. So where's the link? Can we go? I think I'm ready to get this thing over and get started. Where can we people go? And I didn't get to the chore you gave me today, so you'll have to give them a link.
Oh, okay. So what? Well, I guess a couple of things that can do.
April wants the link.
Okay. So do you have April's email?
I do, but I can type it in the. Why don't you type it in the chat too?
Okay.
Then everybody will have it, and then I'll put it up for everybody to see. That's a sweet deal. I mean, you could buy that with your grocery money.
Yeah. So I'll get the link in just matter of fact, I'll get the link in just a second. Okay. And so, but once that's over, it's gone. And here's something else that I'll add to kind of do this. Like if April buys tonight, she gets instant access, so she's not waiting for anything to come in the mail. She pretty much pushes the button, hits purchase, pays for it. She's instantly in the course, and she gets started right away. And, and here's something else to you, so that like there's no risk, and to show that I totally believe in everything that I'm saying. If, for any reason at all you don't like it, there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee. If you say, I don't want to be a real estate investor, I thought I did, I didn't, fine, get your money back. If you say, I don't like the color of the course, fine, get your money back. If you say, what, Joe, I just don't feel I can do it, fine, get your money back. So you have a 30-day unlimited guarantee. So you're basically getting lifetime access, to the course and all the updates. So that means every year you're going to get new information. You're getting 12 months unlimited questions to ask, if you don't understand anything. And you're getting some incredible information that's simple, that's not hard. So, I'm going to give you the link here. Let me go ahead. I'm going to unshare my screen, and then I'm going to get the link.
You can open the chat box and just type it in there.
Okay.
And I will make sure everybody that couldn't be on here tonight gets it. And we'll send it out by email too, but I want them to have it now. and so they can see it, and everybody can see the chat screen that's on here.
So you tell me, do you think you understand it? Is it something you feel you can do now?
Yeah, I was very, very apprehensive, Joe, and so this was as much for me as anybody else. I mean, there's just so many moving parts to this that you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got a whole process for people to do it and not feel anxious about it. And I don't feel anxious. It's not a slam dunk. There's a part I got to do. It's not, you're not going to do it for me, but you've really given me the roadmap.
You know, and I think that's important for people. You know, give me, you know, tell me step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. You know, just like you're baking a cake, you look at the back of the box. It pretty much tells you, know, okay, with these.
Did you put the link? Did you hit return? I don't see the link.
I'm working on it now. Somehow my internet's moving slow.
Oh, I see. So if there's more questions, type them into the screen.
Let's open up for questions.
Yeah, they're typing them in as we go. Ebony says it's the best wholesaling course there is, and you said she was successful in her first deals.
I know I should have pulled up Ebony's picture. You know, I have a picture of Ebony, and when she had a deal, that she had a bunch of cash in her hand, and she was in her car, and she just had cash, and I had taken a picture of Ebony when she got her first deal closed, and she did an amazing job. And you know, the house that Ebony worked on, we called the Spider House, and this house must have had like thousands of spiders in it. I mean, to the point where like she would go in and just start screaming. There was just spiders everywhere. I think we bombed that place like 2 or 3 times, and the spiders were still there.
So you're keeping me in suspense. I'm ready for the type on the link.
I am, yeah. Well, why my internet is moving so slow? Maybe because Zoom is on.
Because we're tying up some bandwidth with this this webcast that we're doing here. Joe, what comes across very, very clearly is that you're a consummate professional. I know you are from other fields, and I know people have talked about your program here, and they know that it works. But you're also a consummate teacher, so I have a high level of confidence in the class. And then you have this Q&A application, and that application about taking pictures of the house, that's quite amazing. It would be worth getting the programs to get that information and figure out, you figured out the gaps, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here.
Not at all. You know what? I'm going to make this very easy. Chat. Okay.
Make it very easy. You typing it in there?
Mm-hmm. You can just go here. So they can go to drjoewhite.com and they can put in, look at the top of the menu. It says real estate investing.
Type it in the box.
I did. I typed it in Dr. Joe White.
I don't see it. Did you hit return? In the chat?
Uh-huh. To everyone. One is not in session. Can you type in drjoewhite.com, drjoewhite.com?
drjoewhite.com.
Mm-hmm.
So go there. Is that right? You see it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah. drjoewhite.com.
It says real estate investment at the top of the menu. They can go there.
Well, drjoewhite.com, you are an expert here, and that's a super deal. $197, and you got to get it before those few spots disappear. And this has been very informative, Dr. Joe White. So we're gonna let people go and get that. April's ready to go, so we're gonna cut her loose, let her go make some money because we're costing her money.
And we'll also send an email out too so that everybody's on the course with the direct links.
So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Joe, for sharing this with people I invited. And we're going to shut down the live feed right now and stop the